one of the most fun things I get to do is I'm on the A team at the U.S. Grains and Biofuels Council. And that started, I think it was almost 10 years ago when Ryan LeGrand invited me to come down to Mexico about a dozen times. And the best thing, there were a lot of great things about Mexico, but one of my favorite things was that when I went down there, I was Vice Presidente Senor Ron Lamberty. When they introduced me, that was so awesome. And Ryan taught me what real street tacos were. I asked him what this was inside it. He said, "Don't ask, eat it, and then I'll tell you." And they were just great. I had a blast down there. I learned a lot. And you cannot really appreciate the complexity of trade until you hear an Oklahoma State cowboy speaking fluent Spanish. And it was just, it was so much fun going down there. Hopefully we're going to get them to start using a lot more ethanol soon. I don't know, maybe they just need to be reminded over and over how much Canada's buying and that they better step it up. But Ryan started his career trading grain and distiller's grain and went down to Mexico and told me that the only way I was going to learn Spanish is if I moved down there, and that wasn't in the cards. So I guess I'll just let him take it from there, and I'll say, welcome, mi amigo, Ryan LeGrand. Ryan LeGrand.
Hey, yeah, thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here today. I'm here to speak about the exciting world of exports. 95% of the world's population lives outside of our borders. So we truly believe that any real substantial growth is going to come in the form of exports. A similar percentage of middle-income class growth is expected over the next 20, 30 years outside of the United States. So when you start seeing people come into the middle-income class, they're able to afford more protein, more animal protein products when they couldn't before. That turns into distillers' grains demand. They're able to start driving a motorcycle or a small little compact car. That turns into ethanol demand. So we're excited about what's going on outside of our borders, and we'll take a little trip around the world with my presentation today. As mentioned, my name is Ryan LeGrand. I work for the American farmer and for all ethanol producers here in this room to further the exports of corn, barley, sorghum, and ethanol and distillers' grains at the U.S. Grains and Bioproducts Council. A little bit about my background. Ron got into it just a little bit. I've been CEO for 7 years. Prior to that, I was the director for the Mexico City office for the council. And prior to that was trading distillers' grains to the export markets for 15 years, mainly focused in Mexico, but also trading containers to Asia and barges on the river. I want to thank ACE for your support over many, many years. You've been a long-time member. As Ron mentioned, he works extensively with us in the past and continues to do so today. When I was the director down there in Mexico City, I was bringing him down every single month to help prepare gasoline stations to make a transition to what we thought we were going to be at E10 there in Mexico. I'll talk a little bit about where we are now as I get further into the presentation. But I used to joke that Ron was going so much to Mexico that their government looked and they decided to revise their immigration policies. Anyway, so ACE did step up with an additional monetary contribution when we had the RAP program, an additional USDA funding coming to us just a few short years ago that required an industry match, so greatly appreciative of that. We've recently received major injections of new funding from USDA, which has allowed us to expand. And we expect a doubling or a near doubling of our budget from USDA coming next year. That's really going to help us grow our scope and our scale. We've already started to expand our staff. We recently created a manager of Canada ethanol programs. We've got Margaret Anderson right here, a very new colleague of mine that's going to be working on our top market in Canada, our top ethanol market. So excited to have her on board. We did change our name last year. For years and years, for 30 years, we were the U.S. Grains Council, but we've been working on ethanol for the last 10 years. We've been working on distillers' grains for over 20 years now. And so these products, these bioproducts, have been part of our identity in practice for many, many years, but not in name. And we wanted to bring that recognition into the name and make that change. And it's been going very, very well for us. Let's see if I've got the right button here. Okay, here is a look at our global footprint. We're headquartered in Washington, D.C. We have 9 international offices, and those smaller yellow dots are where we have a full-time presence, boots on the ground. So all told, we have a full-time presence in 30 countries, and it's that network of offices and people that allow us to run programs in 70 countries worldwide. So we like to say that we never turn off the lights when it comes to promotion of U.S. ethanol, U.S. corn, distillers' grains, and the other products that we promote. Just real quick, look at our members. We are a farmer-led organization, 1 national checkoff board, 28 state checkoff boards, 31 grower associations and farm bureaus, 8 state departments of agriculture, 79 agribusinesses, very important part of what we do, and 33 ethanol plants. Want to thank all the individual ethanol plants that are involved in what we're doing. Come to our meetings. This isn't a membership pitch, but come to our meetings, get involved, provide input to what we're doing to export your products around the world. When people ask what we do and how we do it, we're able to simplify it and break it down into 3 buckets. Trade policy, that's where a lot of the ethanol is right now. We are working to knock down trade barriers, tariff and non-tariff barriers. We work closely with USTR on a lot of these trade deals that you're seeing. We're advising them on ethanol needs, on corn needs, and all the products that we're working on. And you can see that ethanol and corn has featured in a lot of these agreements that are coming out. There is a realization by the Trump administration that corn and ethanol have the greatest potential to contribute to the trade deficits that they want to reduce. We are the top products in ag that can do that. So Luke Lindbergh, Undersecretary Luke Lindbergh, is talking about ethanol, pushing ethanol at every foreign visit that he makes. So he's got that top of mind as well. Trade servicing, that's where we get into, okay, some of the trade barriers are down, and we need to start making trade happen. Technical information sharing, buyer-seller conferences, any way that we can facilitate that trade, that falls into the trade servicing bucket. And then demand building is really how we got started. So on the feed side, that's animal extension work. That's teaching folks how to feed higher levels of inclusion for distillers' grains in their rations. So that's how we got started and continues to be a foundation for the work that we do. Want to look at the global perspective and what people are, policies are in place. I think there's over 60 countries. We don't have them all listed here, but over 60 countries in the world have some sort of ethanol policy in place. You can see, some of the higher blends out there. Brazil, Paraguay are around 30%, maybe even moving higher. India has made a rapid ascent to 20%, which when just a few short years ago, they were about an E4. So impressive to see that growth as well. But you've got a lot of E10s popping up around the world. And some folks are starting a little slower, E5, with the ambition to move to E10. So that's kind of and I think we're going to share these slides, so you're welcome to have all of these afterwards. So that's the policy map. This is the effective blending rate of all those countries that we're seeing. So some of them are below where their mandate or where they're allowed, the discretionary blend is allowing them to go. And that's where we're working to get them to push up to that blend rate. A lot of times what's happening is their local production can't fill it all. So we're coming in there and saying, okay, we're not here to run your local industry out of business. Backfill with imports from the United States to help fulfill the policies and the mandates that you've got in place. And we've had some success there as well. We've also had success where they don't have a local industry and they just want to bring it in. But, more and more countries are understanding and taking advantage of ethanol's benefits. Each country's reasons are different, be it environmental or economic, public health that we just saw, the great study done by the Hormel Institute. But, in a lot of places, the gasoline's subsidized at the pump. So we're giving governments an option. By purchasing the most affordable octane on the planet, you have a choice here. You can pass those savings along to your citizens at the pump, or you can keep that in the federal budget and help contribute it positively to your federal budgets. So that's a pretty interesting prospect for a lot of governments around the world as well. Here's a look at where ethanol is currently going. Canada, as I mentioned, where Margaret works, is our top market. They could be our first billion-gallon market, as they are pretty well blending E10 nationwide on average. And some of the provinces are starting to push to E15 and push beyond that 10% barrier. So great to see, similar to Mexico, very easy on the logistics. They're able to do just-in-time inventory, cost of capital on smaller shipments. You don't have to ship a massive vessel there. So many advantages that we have and will continue to have in Canada that I expect that to continue to be a very important market. Top 5 are rounded out by the European Union, who, when they're not suing us, they're a very good customer for us, as you can see, 317 million gallons. The UK, you may have seen that the first deal struck by the Trump administration was with the UK, and they gave us pretty much full E10 access in that deal. We were getting about 130 million gallons less than what ended up in the agreement at a 19% duty. Now, with this agreement, we've got their full E10 market at a zero duty. So fantastic to see, and we hope to see a lot more agreements like the UK. India is an industrial customer. All 210 million gallons that you see there is going into the industrial industry. Zero on-road fuel or any other applications at the moment. We'll talk a little bit more about what we've got going on in India later on in the presentation. And then Colombia, we do have a countervailing duty in place at about 20 cents a gallon in Colombia, but still, they're a top 5 customer, and things are going very, very well. They just elected a new president that is right of center and is friendly with the Trump administration. So hope to see more positive developments coming out of Colombia, like an increase to E12 or an increase to E15 sometime in the future. Record ethanol exports. This is extremely exciting for us. We are happy to be a part of this, happy to contribute to what's going on. When the marketing year ends this year, August 31st, we will have set a record 3 years in a row for ethanol exports. 2 years ago, it was 1.75 billion gallons. Last year, 2.15 billion gallons. This year, we're going to finish out at the end of this month, and the stats are a little bit lagging. We're going to finish this out this year at 2.35 billion gallons. That does not count nearly 200 million gallons going to Japan in the form of ETBE, which we'll get into a little bit more in just a little bit. So we're going to top 2.5 all told. Extremely exciting to see, and glad to be a part of that. Here's just another look at these are current years. So we're up 9.9% over last year. Again, these numbers are through June. Significant growth in Canada, the EU, but we've got some in Brazil, surprisingly. The arbitrage has worked in recent months, and we've got a little bit of ethanol going back to Brazil, which at one time they were taking 500 million gallons at their peak. And think about that. We're doing virtually nothing to Brazil, or have been in the past few years, a little bit now, and we're breaking records still without what was our one-time largest customer. So it's great to see the diversification of markets. We always like to spread our eggs out between as many buckets as possible. UK, they're down. Why are they down after that big announcement, the big deal? Well, a lot of that product that's going to the UK, it's making it there, but it's going to Europe first. It goes to Rotterdam, gets transferred onto the coasters, the smaller vessels, and then heads over to the UK. So that's why you see EU 27 up dramatically and UK down. It's still going to the UK, but just shipping through the United States. South Korea is one that's on there. It's down as well. They're all industrial. They refuse to adopt any sort of renewable fuel standard or on-road policy, just stonewalling us and the government at every opportunity. That has been one of our most difficult markets to really crack into, especially considering they're such a close ally. So South Korea is all industrial still. Mexico, I'll get into them in just a minute. Japan as well. We'll go ahead to the next slide. Priority markets. We do work closely with our A-team, our advisory teams that consists of ethanol producers, consists of farmers, to establish priority and secondary markets. I've kind of touched on Canada, the EU, UK, Japan. So I want to remind you that these record exports are happening at 2.5 billion gallons. If you combine Japan and Mexico, just two countries, when we get them to E10, that's 2.3 billion gallons of demand between those two countries. So Japan, we chipped away for years and years to get them to reevaluate the greenhouse gas score, the carbon footprint of U.S. ethanol. They finally did it and stopped buying only Brazil and started buying from us in the form of ETBE. But we took it a step further, and we've now convinced them to go to E10. They have pledged to go to E10 by 2030. Trials will start in Okinawa in 2028. And we are very ready for this market to open up and become what will be a billion-gallon market at E10. Now, they're going to give some of that to Brazil. Japan's just, they do spread their eggs out, just like I was just mentioning, but we're going to get a lion's share, I'd say 75% of that business once they're E10 nationwide. Southeast Asia is growing. You've got Vietnam that just passed an E10 policy for their premium grade. They're about to go to all grades here soon. Indonesia is importing a pre-blended E5. Anything we're shipping to Singapore is getting blended into an E5 or an E3 mix and then shipped into Indonesia, working on E10 there as well. It'd be a big market. And then the Philippines. They're at E10 mandatory. We just got them to pass an E20 spec and E20 discretionary blend, but we're working to make that a mandatory E20 minimum blend. We were just there a few months ago and helped open some of the first E20 stations in the nation of the Philippines. Nigeria, starting a trial either hopefully next month. We've been working on it a long time. E10 trial in Nigeria. Nationwide, that's a 300 million gallon market. They have the largest refinery in the world that was just built by Nigeria's richest man. I've been there and seen it. They've got dedicated tanks for ethanol, and they're right on the ocean. They've got dedicated pipelines to those tanks right from the jetty. So they're preparing, waiting on the results of these trials that we're going to be doing, and hopefully get that 300 million gallon market soon as well. Mexico. This one that is near and dear to my heart. Ron and I and a lot of other people worked on getting E10 passed in 2018, and we got it done. And it was struck down in the Supreme Court, not on the merits of ethanol, but on the technicality that the government took, a loophole that they took to pass E10 quickly. Well, in the last 8 years, we've had zero momentum on that. The previous president didn't lift a finger. Their current president, Claudia Sheinbaum, is a believer in ethanol. She's written papers on allowing E20 up to E30 in Mexico, and she is pushing the agenda forward. Can't release a whole lot of information on that now, but their current blend rate, allowable blend rate, is 5.8%. No blending happening in the cities, as was mentioned earlier during the Hormel study. So zero in Mexico City, Guadalajara, Monterrey. I think within a year and a half we'll be at E10 in Mexico, and I think well before that you'll start to see bigger volumes of 5.8% going into Mexico fairly soon. So keep your eye on Mexico, which if that one breaks and at E10 nationwide, that will become our largest market. There's not a lot of market share for us to lose there, similar to Canada. Rail, vessel, easy to hit. So we won't lose out much to Brazil at all on Mexico. I want to talk a little bit about agriculture and energy, and a little on corn production. Won't go too much into this, but the remarkable thing about the U.S. corn story is that our corn production has continued to grow on a relatively similar number of acres. But despite that, we continue to face questions on food and fuel. fueling and feeding the world. We don't say food versus fuel anymore. I'm taking the verses out. I like to say food and fuel because you guys, everyone in this room has proved that you are the most efficient producers in the world and that we can feed and fuel the world. My message to global governments, global citizens is pretty simple. We're long starch and we're short protein. And what are you guys doing every day? You're soaking up the abundance, you're soaking up the long, and you're producing to distillers' grains to help with the short, the protein short that the entire world is facing. And people kind of get it when you put it in that way, and they become a little bit more understanding. But this long-term U.S. corn yield trend, we started out 1860s, 2 bushels an acre, and we're at 180, close to 180 today. So the question for us is not whether yields will continue to rise, it's how fast. And it's our firm belief that the only sector in the world that can keep up with the growth in corn production is ethanol, is energy. It's not going to come from a lot more cattle on the feed. Certainly not going to come from humans. It's energy. And to that, we and several others helped fund an S&P study that kind of speaks to that. It really backs up what I just mentioned. It talks about ethanol being necessary and a catalyst to create successful agriculture. I encourage you all to read this study because agriculture holds the key to solving some of the world's biggest problems: hunger, disease, migration. But to have successful agriculture, you've got to have markets. Markets create margins. Margins creates investment. Investment creates innovation and allows all of us to continue to grow. So I suggest that take a look at that S&P study. It's very impactful, and we're behind it as were many others. Marine, some of the other applications, I'm green-lighting about any marine project that comes onto my desk. This is such a big opportunity. I think you had a marine speaker maybe yesterday, 135 billion gallon total fuel demand. 1.8% penetration into the marine fuel doubles the exports that we have today. It's about 2.4 billion gallons at E1.8 in the marine industry. E10, 13.5 billion, that's not too far from what we're producing as a nation. So you can see pieces of that, fractions of that can really move the needle, and we're pushing very, very hard. We see it as an easier pathway for ethanol than SAF right now, due to the fact that once the dual fuel engines are put into the vessels, it becomes a drop-in fuel. There's some efficiency issues, there's some cost issues compared to the bunker fuel, but with the right regulations in place, we stand a fighting chance to get these small percentages that I mentioned that will move the needle, and we're laser focused on marine right now. 2.3 billion gallons of ethanol demand per year is currently on the order book for these dual fuel engines, so looking to see a lot more come online in the coming years. Maersk is going to the second largest container shipper in the world. They had September 15th scheduled to bunker in Mobile, Alabama, and fill up with U.S. ethanol for the first time ever. A typhoon somewhere in the world messed up their logistics. They're going to reschedule that, but that's going to happen soon. It's going to be a big event. Maersk is really on the leading edge when it comes to the container shippers in adopting ethanol. They're ready. We were in their offices in January of this year. They are ready, and they're excited to use this fuel in their vessels. Here's just a look of, and I'll let you guys look at this later, but kind of what we have already in place that's to our benefit for ethanol in marine fuel. Formal recognition of ethanol as use in maritime. Regulation of ethanol as a low flash point fuel under the IGF code. That's extremely important. Acknowledgement of similar physical properties to methanol, a fuel already in use. We want to be careful with methanol. We want to somewhat marry up with them when it's convenient for us, but obviously compete and get that market when we need to and when it's time. So, the vessel industry already understands methanol. They know how to handle it. So that is where we kind of want to be married up with them. But in a lot of other areas, we don't necessarily want to do that. And then on the right side, on the other side, is a list of kind of what we still need. So just one more thing, I guess. I did promise to get into what we're doing in India. Another novel application is clean cooking. A lot of folks in India are cooking in their homes, small windowless homes with zero ventilation. They're cooking with wood, charcoal, dried animal dung in a lot of cases, and you can imagine the toxic air that's creating inside these homes, and deaths and disease that this is creating. Ethanol is a solution to that. We're working hard in India. We're working in Africa, but we see India as a bigger opportunity. A lot of these cook stoves are made in India. And for every 1% adoption in India, you know how big that population is, 1.4 billion people. Every 1% adoption is 40 million gallons of U.S. ethanol. So it's worth going after. So that's what I have today. Thank you for your time. Got a few minutes left, happy to take any questions. Sir.
Hi, Ryan. Todd Brown. I'm a farmer on an ethanol plant board in South Dakota. A couple questions for you. One is, as we have trade wars and trade disputes, is that Canadian 600 million gallons of ethanol, is that a bargaining chip, or is that in jeopardy in any way, shape, or form? And then secondly, Brazil is expanding their ethanol production. If or when does that become competition for these exports for U.S. ethanol?
Yep, it's Canada and Brazil. Canada, that's a concern. It's mitigated by the fact that if they cut ethanol out, their prices at the pump are going to go up immediately. And people aren't going to be happy. They're not going to be happy with the government, obviously. So that's what kind of mitigates it. But yeah, they only have a 5% minimum blend nationwide, but they're blending at 10% and even higher in some cases. So without even any trade penalties or trade war, they could just say, okay, we're going to dial this back to our national mandate, 5%. That's a concern. It is. But again, the price at the pump hopefully will help to wash that out. Brazil, yeah, they're growing and they're coming, and they are a couple cents cheaper than us for the first time in a long time right now. I've been surprised to see that over the last several weeks. I think that typical price relationship will come back to where it's been, but they're going to continue to grow, and that's why we need these markets. Marine is a market that both of us combined cannot satisfy. So we're looking to create markets and demand that we're going to be chasing for as long as I'm still working here and longer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just got a quick one on India. I mean, I know that's all industrial ethanol now, but it's driven by their adoption of 20% for their vehicles. What is that total market when, once they get theirs filled out? I'm assuming that, most of the backfill of that into their industrial market is what our producers will get.
Right. And yeah, I've just spit out 100 different numbers, and I don't have that one. I can get that to you. It would be into the billion or close to a billion. But India is one of the most protectionist countries in the world, and getting on-road fuel into that market is going to be difficult. Especially they've got capacity for E40. They just passed an E25 and an E30 spec. They're not allowing that blending yet, but they just passed specs for E25 and E30, and they've got a lot of capacity to go.
Methanol. What's the feedstock for methanol? I mean, it's multiple, isn't it?
It's multiple. Yeah, it is. And it's one that I'm not all that familiar with. We've got a lot of people that are a lot smarter than I am on this, working for us, thankfully. Isn't it something made from fertilizer? Or nat gas, yeah. And it's being adopted. It was one of the early, what they're calling alternative fuel to that the steamship lines are looking at. But it doesn't have the advantages that ethanol does. It doesn't have our GHG profile or carbon footprint.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Culture, high protein with aquaculture, and which countries are doing that?
We certainly do. So that's a new and exciting thing for us, right? We've always just had traditional distillers, and now we've got high pro. There's a lot of different products coming out onto the market from many different countries. So we're exposing customers around the world to everything that the United States has to offer, and a lot of that is going in. It's a nice fit into aquaculture. We're doing that in Ecuador. We're doing that in Mexico. doing that in Africa and in Southeast Asia. So we've got good coverage on a lot of this high pro and CFP that's coming out of plants. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you. Really appreciate the support from all of you in this room. Thanks, Brian.